Hello everyone, this is Chantal from Gluten-Free Cooking123.com, and today I have something different for you. I'm going to be showing you how to make rice flour. I thought that in light of what's happening, it is important to share with you ideas to help you use the food that you have, and also to, in case let's say you weren't able to get your rice flour or certain foods at the grocery store that might not be available anymore, or maybe you cannot go out anymore and you are confined to your homes and just have to use what you have. So I was thinking that I would give you ideas on what to do with these things. Today's video is going to be specifically on making rice flour, and I will also be showing you in other videos how to make rice bread out of the flour that we have just made, that we will be making. And also I will be showing you different pantry recipes that you could benefit from during this time that we are going through. I want to encourage you guys to stay positive during this time. One verse that I like to cling on to, and this is a verse that I just that comes often in my mind throughout my entire life, is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. And also another verse that I'm probably going to be butchering, but I just remember them by heart, and you know what, let me look that up so that I can give you the accurate version, just to help encourage you guys during this time that we're going through, because it is so easy to just get bogged down by all the information that's out there and to get stressed out. And I was heading in that direction, and then I was speaking to my husband, and he was just giving me encouragement and just reminding me of God's promises to us. And this is what I want to do for you also, and help you cook as well. This is the Bible verse that I'm going to be reading to you. It's Matthew chapter 6 verses 26 to 34. Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Now if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. I just hope that these verses will encourage you, and these are verses that I dwell on. I just keep them in my heart, and I just remind myself of them whenever I need them, and especially in times like these. So don't stress out, stay positive, and do whatever you can to just keep your hopes up. And no one really knows what tomorrow will hold, and the Bible says tomorrow has its own worries. So let's just be concerned about today and what will we do for today. So therefore, for today I'm going to show you how to make rice flour. So I was planning on showing you 3 different methods of making rice flour. And one is by freezing the flour first and then using a food processor, processing it into rice flour. The other one is by soaking the rice flour. And the third method is by just milling it. And I had a KitchenAid attachment for my KitchenAid right there, but somehow I can't find it, and I've had it in my kitchen for a while, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared, and I have no idea where I put it, because we rearranged the kitchen a while ago, long while ago, and I really don't know where it is right now, and I've looked everywhere for it and I can't find it. So I'm hoping to find it again. So that method I'm not going to be able to show you, but I'll just tell you how to do it anyways. So let me just start with that. So for the milling, I don't know about other grain millers, but for the KitchenAid attachment, usually you just want to make sure that your rice is dry. You don't want it to touch any water, and you just drop it in there, and it has like a little brush to clean the mill, whatever you want to call it, the mill, and in case if there's any debris or anything that's stuck in there, you just attach it to the KitchenAid. There's this knob right here on my KitchenAid, and mine does not tilt its head, it just stays put. So what goes up and down is actually this thing right here. So there's this knob right here, so you loosen that and you open this up and you put your attachment in here and you tighten this up, and it has a square shape or diamond shape, and it has to fit right in there. And then you tighten it, and I believe you put the speed on. I honestly am not sure which speed you're supposed to put it on. I think it's either 3 or 4, I'm not sure. I need to look that up, and then I'll probably put it in the description box. So anyways, you start it and you want to put something underneath it to catch the flour, of course. You could use, I just usually use this thing. I move it over because the attachment comes further out, so I just move this over to here maybe, put it underneath it, and just catch all the flour that drops from the grain mill. You can store it in the fridge to stay fresh longer, or in the freezer. You could also just store it in your pantry if you are using it often. And rice flour doesn't stay that long in my house. I make a lot of bread, especially flat rice bread, which I will be showing you in the next video. I just use it in a lot of recipes. So let's move on to the next method right now, and I'll show you how to do that. The next method is to, like I said before, freeze your rice. You want to freeze it probably for over an hour at least, just to help the rice to break down easier. And that is if you have a high-speed food processor. Now I have here a Ninja, and my food processor is pretty small. This is actually, it operates as both a food processor and a blender. And right here I have 1 cup of rice that I have frozen 2 nights ago because I wanted to do this video yesterday and I wasn't able to because I was looking for the mill everywhere in the house and I just couldn't find it. So we're just doing this. The freezing process basically helps it to break down easier in the food processor. So we're going to put this in our food processor and we're going to blend it. I'm going to pulse it at first. The back of my food processor is broken, so I have to hold the top. This is the stage that it's at right now. I think that it needs several more times of processing for it to work. Now mine isn't a super high speed food processor, but it nonetheless it is higher than in speed than other processors, than other food processors. I thought I was recording, turns out I wasn't. So I did process my rice, and I processed it several times, and not all of it turned into flour, and I believe that's because the inner part of the rice grain is thicker than the outer part, so it takes longer for it to break down during the freezing process. If you observe the rice grain carefully, the ends are a lot thinner than the middle of the rice grain, so they're more exposed to the extreme cold temperatures, and they're probably going to break down a lot easier that way. So what I can do is I'm going to sift it and then take whatever rice that's left over, put it back in the freezer, and then try to process it again and see what happens if I actually am able to get more rice flour from it or not. You do need a very high speed, high tendency, I don't know how to say that, food processor or blender. So just to show you, it's kind of warm. that's what happened. There are a few grains left. And if you can't actually grind the leftover particles into flour, you could always use them as rice pudding. You don't want to waste anything, especially during this time, because that's why we're doing this, right? So I probably didn't get a lot of rice flour out of this. I probably just broke down my rice grains instead of anything. But this is just to show you that you can do this if you do have a high-speed food processor. I don't. I mean, it's higher in speed than other food processors, but not really that high. Okay, so there was a lot of rice left. For this food processor, it's not going to work out. I can still use the rice, but I just want to show you. It creates this rice. It still needs to be sifted because it is sort of coarse. And if you do have a grain mill, that really is the best thing to do. This is all I use to make rice flour. I've never actually used the food processor to make rice flour before, but I did research on it and I thought I'll share with you guys if you are in need of making rice flour, or if you have too much rice and you don't know what to do with it. And you don't have any bread, so that's one way to make bread. The other method is to soak our rice. So I did soak my rice the day before and then I dried it, and I think it got too dry, so I'm not going to be able to use it right away. I'm going to have to soak it again and then partially dry it, sorry, not completely dry it, and then after that I will be able to process it and we'll see what happens. So this was my rice that I did soak. Unfortunately, it's dry again. I can't actually... Oh, I can break it. Huh. Maybe I should try. Yeah, I can break it easily. Should I try? I'll try. Even though I soaked it 2 days ago. Okay, we're gonna try, see what happens. Maybe I should try just a little and see. Not all of it. This was 1 cup also, so let's try it. Didn't work very well. Well, it did work better, I should say. This is only one time that I processed it, and the grains are actually a lot smaller than the other grains. So I'm going to try to process it again and see what happens. I'm going to process it several times. If I can't process it, what I'm going to do is take all that rice and the other rice and soak them and then dry them and try again. I processed it 3 times, so let's see how much flour I was able to get out of it. A lot of it actually almost turned to flour. There is flour in here, but it's also, the grains are a lot smaller than the one that's frozen. And there's flour in here, so I do have to soak it again in order for it to actually work. I'm just going to put it in this same thing and see how much flour I got out of it. So it's still coarse. There's some flour that's not coarse in here, but as you can see, it does have to be soaked and it does have to be sort of wet for it to actually work. So I'm gonna try this over again and see what we can do. So I'm going to soak it for a half hour. Look, I found it. I was actually preparing for another video to show you guys how to use your canned food to create quick and easy recipes if you do have canned food on hand. And I found this in the oddest place. I don't even know why I put it there. Weird. I don't know. I usually have all my KitchenAid stuff stacked right next to each other, and I used to have this in the kitchen just because I used to use it often, and then I moved it, and instead of putting it next to my KitchenAid stuff, I put it somewhere completely unrecognizable. I don't know, this is just weird. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up, show you the parts, and then show you how to use it. So you actually don't want to wash this, you want to keep it dry as you can, And the way how you clean it is by using the brush here. There's this part that comes apart, and this top part here, if you want to have a closer cleaning inside here, and you could take these screws off right here. Can you guys see them? You could take these screws off and then clean it really well on the inside. This part right here tightens it and loosens it to give you a finer grain or a coarser grain. Right now it is set on extra coarse, so that's the bar here. It shows you the coarseness of the grain. So I want it to be super fine because I'm making rice flour that I'm going to be using to make flat rice bread. And these screws here would help you take this out also. And this is the part where it hooks to the KitchenAid. And it comes with this brush as well, and with this to help you if you remove this part so that you don't hurt yourself. You can drop the grain in there and push it in if it's like something that's coarse, maybe like corn or something like that. I should try milling corn with this, and if I do try that, I'll show you guys how to do it. I usually store all my KitchenAid accessories right in here for the mixing part, and I'm just gonna take them out and use this to drop the flour right in it. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this up, loosen this part right here, and then hook this in, making sure. Now, before I do that, actually I want to show you there's this latch right here that has to go in the groove that's specifically designed for it, and if it doesn't and you turn the KitchenAid on, this whole thing could fly on you, and this thing is heavy and it could hurt you really bad. It could break some bones. I actually had this happen to me with a different attachment where I thought I had it in here and I thought I tightened it pretty well, but somehow it came loose. I don't know what I did wrong. And so now I'm really careful to make sure that it fits right in there, and then tighten that really well so that it doesn't come loose. And that's the part where your flour is going to come out from. So I just use this to catch the flour. Yeah, this actually did not come with it. This actually was mine, and I just used it to clean with it. So it came with this, and it has this end right here so that you can put it in and just get a closer cleaning also, and or like to push something in. And also you could use this part to clean, not while it's on. Okay, so now we're going to put some rice in here and start milling. I got my rice right here, and this is just a normal grain rice. You want it to be dry, you don't want to soak it, you don't want any water touching it, you don't want any water touching this. And you're just going to turn the KitchenAid on, don't drop that, and start it, and then start dropping your rice in here. I don't know if which rice gives you sweet rice, which rice, sweet rice flour, or which is more stretchy and glue-like, and which rice gives you the just regular white rice flour. I need to do more research on that before I can share this with you guys. And I also want to cook with different types of rice and see what rice is what. But unfortunately now is not the time for me to do this because of all that's happening around in our country and around the world. I can't actually get to what I need in order to do that. So this will just have to do, just use whatever rice you have on hand to make your rice flour in case if you weren't able to buy rice flour. I put the KitchenAid on speed 4 and I have this on very fine. I'm going to try and see if this is the actual speed that it needs, or maybe it probably needs, it can work, but I think it needs to be on very high speed. Yeah. Okay. I put it at 10. rice flour. And that was just super easy, easier than anything that you can imagine. So if you have a KitchenAid attachment like this for grinding grains or milling grains, you could use it to turn anything into flour, really. And I just want to show you guys, you don't have to sift this. If you want, you can. But let me just show you how nice this is. Look at this. And this is by no means sponsored by KitchenAid. I mean, I'm definitely not sponsored by anyone. I'm just sponsored by myself. So, and by God. Isn't that amazing? Look at this. And it's going to feel warm, and you will notice when it's done grinding, because you will see a lot less flour coming out, and you will not hear the grinding sound anymore. So yeah, just put it on the highest speed possible and use that to grind your flour. Now this is the easiest way possible to make rice flour. It's the best way, it's the way I prefer to do it. But if you don't have that and all you have is a food processor, then the soaking process is probably what you will need to do. And we are still waiting for our rice to soak. I'm soaking it for a half an hour, and then after that we're going to dry it for a little bit and then process it and see what happens. My rice has been soaking for an hour only because I was busy recording another video for you guys. So we are going to drain it right now and then lay it on a clean dishcloth and let it dry probably for a half hour, and then come back and process it. Drain it really well. Okay, we're going to lay our rice on this clean dish towel over here and spread it out to help it to dry faster. You don't want it to completely dry. It has to be somewhat wet when you come to process it, because that's what's going to help it to break down in the food processor. So my rice have been drying for about a little over a half hour. Just need it a little bit more. Let me show you how it looks like right now. So it's very breakable. I can actually break it between my fingers. Not all of it, of course, but a lot of it. So we're going to put it in the food processor, and then we're going to dehydrate it, or just spread it maybe on a towel, or spread it on a cookie sheet and let it dehydrate in the oven on very low temperature. Or maybe you could just warm up your oven, turn it off, and then put it in the oven and let it dry. And if you're in a different situation and you can put it outside in the sun and in the heat, then you could probably do that too, but I wouldn't want to do that just because of bugs and stuff and dust and all that. So I would just put it in the oven and let it dry in the oven. I prefer that method. So let's just do that. Okay, I'm going to put the rice in the food processor. I probably am not going to be able to fit all of it, but I'll try to put as much as I can. I don't think I want to fill it anyways, because we want some room so that the rice could be able to grind pretty easily. So it ran for 1 minute. I think I'm going to let it run for another minute. It looks like it needs it. So the rice finished processing, or I finished processing the rice. And now we're going to spread it on this cookie sheet because it is still wet. We're going to dehydrate it in the oven just until it's dry. Just keep checking on it every few minutes. Don't leave it in there for forever because you don't want it to brown. I will show you the texture just in a minute. I'm just going to break it up a little bit just because it kind of clumped up at the bottom just a little bit. It did turn into flour, but it did clump up a tiny bit at the bottom. My food processor does that. I think every food processor does that because it's wet and it turns it into sort of like a dough. So just use your hands and rub it between your hands to break it up a little bit if that happens to you. That's how it looks like. It's a little on the grainy side. It's not super fine. but it is rice flour. Let me show you a comparison between it and the milled rice flour, the dry milled rice. In this hand I have the dry, and in this hand I have the dry milled, and in this hand I have the wet processed rice flour. And of course, because it is wet, it is going to look a little on the grainier side, but here, if I smooth it out a little, you could see, and that's the dry milled again. That's the wet processed rice flour. So there is a little bit of a difference between them. But if a food processor is all that you have to make your rice flour, and if you don't have any rice flour in this situation, and that's the only way you can get it, this is how you can do it. And let me show you just a close comparison of how they look like when they're falling. This is the wet and this is the dry. Can you guys see the difference? Of course, I don't know if this is fair because this is not the processed rice flour needs to dry a little before we can compare them, but I don't have the time to do that. So I'm just going to spread it, dehydrate it a little bit in the oven. Or I suppose you could let it dry on the countertop like this too. So try it out and let me know what you guys think. That's it for today, guys. This is how you make rice flour 3 different ways: the soaking method, the freezing method, and the milling method. As you can see, it was super easy. In the next episode, I will show you how to make flat rice bread. And like I said before, if you guys have food in your pantry that you don't know what to do with, please list them down in the comments section down below and let me know what types of food you have, and maybe I can come up with some recipes for you to help you during this time. Let's all just help each other and support each other, encouraging each other. Stay safe, and thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you are new here to this channel, and don't forget to like this video so that others can see it as well, and hit the bell if you want to receive notifications of whenever I upload new videos. And share this video so that others, also with your friends and family, so that they can know also how to cook their pantry food. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.